Pacer Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode here of Setting the Pace. I am your host, Alex Golden, and I'm joined today by the one and only Michael J. Facci. Facci, this is your go-to Pacers podcast because we got the game recap for you right after the Pacers' dominating victory. Talk to me about this game.
Oh my God, domination. That's got to be the word. This was a franchise night. We talked about 86 points, the franchise record. It matched it. 152 points. Matched the franchise record. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better, I would say, complete game out of the Pacers. They hold the Spurs to 111. They score 152 in the process. Alex, it feels like maybe once in a lifetime you really get to be chanting to say, break the scoring record tonight. Pacers had a chance to do it, but at the same point, if that's the only thing we can complain about, that's a good night.
I'll say this: Rick Carlisle picks up his 900th career win for his career, so that's great for him. Myles Turner played in his 500th game of his career, and the Pacers pretty much just did to the Spurs what the Celtics did to the Pacers last Wednesday: dominate offensively from start to finish. This was a fantastic game, Facci. 57.9% from the field, 52.6% from the three-point line, until Jordan Nwora, a great shooter, missed a free throw in the fourth. This team was going to go 23 of 23 from the free throw line.
And set the
they could
record.
not miss.
I know. It's kind of unfortunate that it happens to be Jordan Nwora. It's like, of all guys, it's like, but at the same point, I mean, what we saw tonight from start to finish, the Pacers never trailed. They led by as much as 40 points. We saw an aggressive Tyrese Haliburton in the first half.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Assertive Tyrese scoring. We just talked about this.
It's what
after
you wanted.
The Hornets game. We were like, we have got to see Tyrese be more assertive. I think you said he's a pass-first guy. That's what it's natural for him to do that. I'm like, listen, they need him to score. He has got to establish himself early on. And what did he have? 10 points in the first quarter, and Myles had 11? That's what you want to see.
I just felt like they, from the start, had that bad taste in their mouth coming off that Hornets loss. And they really set that tone early. And the Pacers, like I said, they never trailed in this game, but they scored 44 points in the first quarter, the most they've scored in a first quarter, this season. This game was just filled of season or franchise bests. And it was awesome to see. I mean, like I said, they had 86 at halftime. It felt like the Pacers were in control every second of this game. And I felt across the board, pretty much everybody played really well. And it's just awesome to see. Every player gets in, except for Daniel Tice. I don't know when it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. At this point, there's no scenario. If it ain't Boston when you lose by 51, and it ain't when you win by, whatever.
40 plus.
41, I don't know when there's an opportunity for it. But another guy I do want to shed some positive light on, Obi Toppin, breakout performance, 19 points. We have been waiting for it. He goes 6 of 11 from the field. He's a plus 25, which is the second best rating behind only Tyrese Haliburton. Obviously, in transition, he's fantastic. We saw some awesome, some awesome dunks. It's what he does. And goes 6 of 6 from the free throw line, the most free throws attempted by a Pacer on the night. Obi, it was awesome to see him just succeed tonight.
Yeah, and we got to talk about what he did defensively. He drew the assignment of Victor Wembanyama, and I know some people are like, why isn't Myles guarding him? But look, it made sense for Obi Toppin to guard him because, look, Wembanyama is not he's got a very thin frame, let's just put it that way. Yes. He doesn't have a lot of meat or muscle on that body yet as he continues to develop and grow his body into an NBA player. Now, look, there's no doubt about it. Wembanyama is a very polarizing player. Fantastic young prospect, probably one of the best we've ever seen. But let's be real. They're going to have ups and downs. The Spurs were coming off the second night of a back-to-back. They just lost a tough game in Toronto. It was kind of a miracle that Victor even played this game. The Spurs were down Devin Vassell, but I will tell you this, as good as Devin Vassell is, I don't think that would have mattered in tonight's game. Just like we talked about the Celtics game, even if we would have had Tyrese, it would not have mattered. When you lose by 51 points, it's just not your night. So overall, you're right. Obi Toppin deserves all the flowers. He was fantastic in this game. He was in the right spot, making the right reads and doing the right stuff that you want to see from your power forward. And this is what it is like when you have an athletic power forward that can do a lot of different things because of that athleticism being so beneficial. Because who else would the Pacers have thrown on on Victor Wembanyama in previous years? They don't have anybody to match up with what he brings skill set wise. I'm not saying Obi's the best fit, but for what the Pacers had, they had nobody else that was a better matchup, I think, for Victor Wembanyama.
No, that was great. And overall for the starting lineup, I mean, you saw good contributions from Bruce Brown. No, it was not one of those nights where he needed, 19 points or anything, but just a well-balanced 7 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists.
Yeah.
Good to see. Myles Turner, another double-double, finishes with 15
rebounding machine.
This is the best rebounding version of Myles we have ever seen, hands down. I just feel like night in, night out, he has really battled on the glass. You take out that Boston game, which was just a disaster for everybody. And, I mean, Turner's rebounding numbers, they're fantastic. So I love what I've seen from Myles. I think that he has answered all the questions so far of could he duplicate what he did last year? And so far, that's what he's doing. I think we're getting a really, really good Myles Turner. Let's also put this out there. It's 15 points and 11 rebounds in 21 minutes. I mean, that's as great as it gets for Turner having a double-double in as little minutes as possible.
No, you're right about that. Now, I'm looking at Turner's numbers here rebounding-wise for the year because I wanted to see what he's done. And, it looks like he's averaging 8.5 for the season, Facci. So
prior to this game, I believe.
That was before this game. Yeah, because the last one they have listed here is the Charlotte game where he only had 6. I thought Charlotte, he struggled a little bit on the glass.
Yeah, Mark Williams.
The team in general did. Now, against Boston, he only had 5 rebounds. But against Cleveland, he had 12. Against Chicago, he had 11. Against Cleveland again, he had 9. And then the opening night, he had 8. So you like to see him in the upper echelon of, closer to 10. You want to see him continue to grow in that area and just be a force down low. And I think with Obi Toppin kind of leaking a little bit more than maybe previous other power forwards might have done, this does kind of put more responsibility on Myles to be more of a rebounder. But I also think the new defensive scheme that this team is running, where they're trying to run guys off the three-point line a little bit more and kind of make them play more of a mid-range game or get to the basket, this is allowing Turner a better chance to not have to play so much recovery. I don't feel like we've seen Turner have to play a lot of recovery defense like we've seen the last previous years, where he's constantly having to be the last line of defense. And we've seen these guys really have to own up and figure things out a little bit differently. So I don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty of all the terminologies of what's going on there with the defensive schemes. But you guys understand what I'm saying. Turner isn't being relied upon to be the last line of defense every single possession like it felt like it had been for the previous years. It's more seldom when it happens. And I think we've seen more discipline from our perimeter defense with this new system.
I think so. And, let's also give the Pacers some credit here because this isn't like the San Antonio team of last year. This is a San Antonio team that came in at 3-3. They had beat Phoenix twice.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a San Antonio team that had been playing some solid basketball. And I think for the Pacers to be able to get as large of a win as they did tonight just shows that it's just like what we talked about the other day. I mean, they could beat anybody. They could drop a game to pretty much anybody. You never know. But this comes with, being a 4-3 team that's figuring things out. I love where we're at. The common theme right now seems to be to nitpick about Benedict Matherin's role. Mathurin, he was 10 points, 4 of 8 shooting. 8 of the 10 points came in the third quarter in a run where it looked like he was being more aggressive. Yeah. Plays just 22 minutes. I think right now it's like, guys, if we're winning, what's the problem? I mean, I know you want to be able to develop him right now, but like so many people were saying, if Mathurin doesn't work out tonight, you got to move him. And it's like, in Game 7, do we have to make the move? It's like it's not perfect, but I hope we get there with Mathurin.
I think we got to just preach patience with Mathurin right now. I think Dustin Dopirak asked Rick Carlisle about this and in pregame media, and basically coach just said, look, I've asked Ben to do some different things this year. So
definitely,
you know what? You're talking about that little streak there where he started going. He started playing basketball like Ben Mathurin knows how to play basketball, and that was getting to the basket. I always think about when the Pacers had Andrew Bynum for 2 games, and Michael Grady was on the local radio station, and he used to say he caught the ball, he turned, and he dunked it, because that was what we could never get Roy Hibbert to do when he was in the paint. It was always, back down, maybe do a little baby hook, maybe fall down. It was just like Roy Hibbert was a very inconsistent player and kind of frustrating at times, especially offensively, if you remember those days. So when I think about Ben Mathurin, all I kept thinking of was he caught the ball, he drove to the basket, and he scored it. Similar to what they used to say about Andrew Bynum is he caught the ball, he turned, and he dunked it. And that's what we want to see from Mathurin. It's like, I understand he's trying to grow, and we're going to continue to see that growth happen. Defensively, Caitlin Cooper pointed out some really good stuff on Twitter. If you guys haven't checked it out,
tough to watch.
Where you see where Mathurin's struggling, and it's like, look, everyone wants to be so super defensive of Ben because you believe in his future, but at the same time, you got to call it out when it's out there, and it's not been good. So I think that this moment, it was frustrating for me because they did go to that lineup that I talked about with Ben Mathurin with the bench, and the Spurs went on maybe like a 6-0 run or something like that. It wasn't even that many points, and Rick Carlisle calls a timeout. He puts in Bruce Brown for Ben, and he puts in Myles in for Isaiah Jackson, and the Pacers just erupt once again. And it's like, okay, I don't really think Ben was the problem during that run previously by the Spurs, but it just happened where they pulled him out and put Bruce back in the game, and they went on this run. And I'm like, man, I just wish Mathurin could have been out there to experience it a little bit. So that was a tough one overall, but you just got to love the growth from Ben in this game to not force too much and kind of let Tyrese be the focal point of scoring the basketball with that first unit. And we even saw some action where Ben was able to be more of a facilitator and kind of initiate the offensive set to get Tyrese some looks.
Yeah, he had a great pass. I think it might have been Obi Toppin, maybe whatever it was one finish that he easily could have finished it himself, and he gave it, I believe, Obi, and it was just nice to see. And I think overall, although he had been struggling lately, he does go 4 of 8 in this game for 10 points, which is his most efficient game out of the last 4 games, or last few games, actually, last 5. So, we saw it was a game that Ben Mathurin wasn't really needed to have to be too aggressive when the Pacers end up obviously having the type of offensive outburst that they had. But I thought across the board, one other guy that I do want to highlight is honestly Isaiah Jackson had some moments tonight.
He needs his praise tonight.
He does, because I think that we saw an unbelievable block against Victor Wembanyama that I thought really was like, man, I really hope this gets enough shine, because I know if roles were reversed, everyone was saying Wembanyama with an amazing block. And I saw, the NBA was sharing it and other people, and I was like, great. That's how it should be, because that was a great block by Isaiah. He finished it with 2 blocks. He had some great slams. He did have 5 fouls, but at the same point, this was good. He had good moments in this game, and I was happy for him to be able to get that run tonight.
No, you're right. I think that Jalen, Myles, and Isaiah all had 3 fouls by the end of the first half. So,
yeah, they did.
It was like some tic-tacky calls. Jalen Smith, we got to talk about this real quick. He was upset on his 3rd foul call. He wanted to he was very close to getting a technical foul. Surprised he didn't get it, but the referee moved away.
Yeah, me too.
As he exited the floor, he was mean mugging the referee. Walks to the bench, ends up kicking something on his way to the tunnel. I couldn't see what he kicked from where I was at the game tonight, but he was upset. And I was like, okay, I mean, this is justified. That was a pretty bogus call. And I know he's really been trying to improve upon his game and just become this reliable backup center for this team. So when he feels like he's getting called for stupid fouls that really probably the first couple were fouls. I don't think the last one was a foul as much. So it also goes to tell you why you shouldn't use your coach's challenge on an out-of-bounds play in the first quarter when you're up by 20 points. Maybe that's a good idea to hold on to that challenge. But regardless, Isaiah Jackson got the opportunity. He came in, and he thrived for the moments he was out there, had some really nice flashes. I think he had an alley-oop dunk, if I'm not mistaken, maybe in the second half. He had a dunk of some sort. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, he had a nice dunk. I don't think it was an alley. Maybe I'm mistaken, but
yeah, I can't remember. It's all a blur. Everything they threw up went in, so I can't remember everything. But you're right. That block, though, he had on Victor Wembanyama, that is one that is going to go down as maybe his best highlight of his entire NBA career. He's going to need to hang that poster in the house wherever he can find a spot. And I think Dustin O'Perick said this on Twitter, and I totally agree. I wouldn't hang anything else up next to that. That is a special moment that when Victor Wembanyama is winning an NBA championship, Isaiah Jackson can say, looky here, I had the first block in Indianapolis, like a poster
welcome
block
to NBA, Rook.
That was his welcome to the NBA.
It was, but it really was, though. And to your point before, you were right. No, Isaiah Jackson did have an alley-oop. I thought for a second you were talking about Jalen Smith. Isaiah did, because I remember when he flushed down that alley-oop, I thought to myself, like, man, a couple years ago, we were like, this guy can jump out the ceiling. But then you see Obi Toppin, and you're like, all right, now that guy can really jump out the ceiling. So, I thought tonight, just Ijax definitely wanted to give him his flowers. Jalen Smith, going back to him, plays 12 minutes, 9 points, 7 boards, 4 of 4 shooting,
and a 3.
hits a 3-pointer that just looked. I had to tweet it out.
Every time
that
Jalen Smith,
pointer.
I'm sitting here live, okay? I'm at the game, so I'm ahead of you by like 3 minutes, right? I'm sitting here and I'm just refreshing your Twitter feed, and I said, my buddy David, I said, I'm waiting for the Facci Jalen Smith tweet. I'm waiting, and I'm like, there it is.
It arrived. That 3-pointer looked so good, but he's so picky and choosy with his threes. It's like he's so smart with it. Like, he's not just like putting up threes and going like 1 of 4 or something like that. Like, he's going like 1 of 1 or like 2 of 2 or, things like that where he's efficient. He doesn't have this like turnaround fadeaway shot where I was like, what? Like, he's been working on that? Like, Jalen Smith, man, that bag is getting deeper. So I'm like obsessed with what I've seen this year out of Jalen Smith. I could not be happier for him. And then just obviously, one guy that I wanted to also shed some light on, Buddy Hield. First start of the year. Remember, we did our stock up, stock down. At that point, we were through, I think, 3 games on the year. Maybe it was 4. I was like, I don't know, maybe like stock in the middle, like hard to really tell. Over the last 3 games, Buddy Hield is averaging 17.3 points per game on 59% shooting and 54% shooting from 3. This is awesome. I mean, he's playing his role off the bench flawlessly in the last few games and just shows how vital he is to this team and the chemistry that he has with this group.
He's an elite level shooter, Facci. That's one of the things that this Pacers front office and coaching staff likes about having Buddy Hield on the roster. Yeah, we know he's in an expiring contract. We did some trade ideas for Buddy Hield for a podcast just to have some kind of something to talk about in case there was a reason the Pacers do make a deal with so many guards on this team. But you can see why he fits in so well. And I want to give a shout out again here because I had no intentions of going to this game tonight. I wasn't covering it for the media purposes. And our good guy Rooster, right, faithful listener of the show, said, hey, I got an extra ticket for tomorrow. Do you want it? I was like, look, I'm not going to pass this up. You get a free ticket to watch Victor Wembanyama. I'm in. So I go. He says, I have an extra one too. So my buddy David was able to go with me. So shout out to Rooster. Sat next to him and his boy, Easton. It was a great game. And we had a lot of fun just watching this Pacers team dominate. So I want to thank him once again for hooking me up. What's up?
I got a quick shout out for Rooster because Rooster slid into my DMs today. He offered me a ticket for next week against the Magic. Said, I got an extra ticket. Is there any way you could fly in? I really appreciated the offer. It's actually my birthday next weekend. I told him I'm not going to be able to make it, but I definitely appreciate him reaching out. So, Rooster, we're just chock full of shout outs tonight. The man just keeps on giving. I love it. So,
where are you going for your birthday?
Well, I just got birthday plans. Just
Washington D.C.
No. I'm gonna be staying local, but I got some family coming in and everything, so we're gonna do that. Amy's got a couple surprises, so who knows what I'll be doing, but I won't be, unfortunately, on a plane to Indiana, for that game.
Yeah, Rooster's son asked him in halftime. He goes, "Who's the guy sitting next to us?" He's like, "Oh, that's Alex from Setting the Pace." And he was like, "Oh, is he the Wizards fan?" And he's like, "No, not Alex. It's the other guy."
Just by the grin that you had on your face before you told this story, I knew it was going in some sort of direction like that. So it was just like pretty much just rip the Band-Aid off.
I was ready to keep it moving. I really was.
But no, that's great. But he sent me, Rooster sent me a picture of his son Easton. He's got the fresh brand new Pacers jersey on. So that was awesome to see. I think that was the first time I really saw someone like wearing it outside of like a player or someone like modeling it on Twitter. So really cool to see. And Rooster, we appreciate the tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to Jalen Smith, 8 of 12 for 3 from 3 for the year. Like you said, he's picking and choosing when to shoot them, but they've always been timely, and that's been the big thing. They've been timely, and it's been, hey, I'm not going to rush and take this shot. I love the little fadeaway that he did shoot in. My buddy David was like, what is he shooting the fadeaway for? I said, look, that's the only way he was going to create separation to get that shot up, okay? So I will say this. You look at the box score and you just kind of go down the line, and one guy we haven't even talked about yet only played 16 minutes, but Aaron Nesmith he is just a constant for this Pacers team. Win or lose, he seems to be putting up pretty similar stats. There's some games where he doesn't necessarily put the points up, but you feel his presence on the court, and you could definitely feel it tonight. I think he had a step back three over Victor Wembanyama, and then he gave him the 3-point sign and looked at him. There was one where Buddy Hield kind of made a layup where Wembanyama was in the vicinity, and he pointed at Victor. I'm telling you what, there's a lot of pressure on that rookie, a lot of hype around him. And a lot of people want to, take it to him. So, I feel for him a little bit, but I don't feel that bad because the Pacers needed this victory after that heartbreaking loss like we talked about on Sunday. And they were able to get back on their winning ways. And now they're ready for the Utah Jazz, Facci, on Wednesday night. Coming off that big one, they cannot get too high off of this game. And I hope that they can just be as focused after dominating a Spurs team that clearly is not a playoff team whatsoever.
No, the Spurs are not ready yet. I thought this was a good win, but just like we talked about the Hornets, there are certain teams that we view as beneath the Pacers, and the Utah Jazz could be one of those. And I don't think that's the right mentality to have because you could easily overlook Utah. At one point, Utah was up like 30 points on the Memphis Grizzlies, maybe a week or so ago. So it's
everybody's been killing the Grizzlies. Though.
Everybody's been beating them, but it's like, look, the Jazz. They're a team that shocked a lot of people last year at times. I think that they have good players on their roster despite their record. So we don't want to just completely overlook them and not get up for this game. So I think this is going to be really important to be able to handle business while you're still at home during this stretch. If the Pacers can, stretch just to 5-3, you would feel really good knowing, hey, maybe a couple of these games got away from us, but we're going at a really good pace. And I think that this team right now, they're getting more familiar with each other. They're clicking. And I think that we're starting to see, hey, look, on a night like tonight, like Obi Toppin broke out. What if he can continue this going? Like Mathurin, I think, is going to be more than just fine. He's getting it going. I think that we're having guys step up each night outside of a Tyrese Haliburton. We might not know necessarily who's going to be that second guy, but each game, for the most part, there's been a second guy contributing, close to 20 points or so to be able to help out. And I think that that's the beauty of this team is how deep they are and how when they go nine deep, those 9 players are really contributing to this game instead of having, hey, you got, three good guys and 4, 6 somewhat all right guys. This squad's deep.
Yeah, the good thing about having this depth is you don't have to rely on the same people to always have good and consistent games. But like you said, the problem is we really do need someone to kind of separate themselves from the pack.
I know, we do.
As that number 2 option. And I think right now, based on the 7 games we've seen, it seems like the most consistent person to be in that mid-range scoring level of like 15 to 20 points is Myles Turner.
It does.
And that's kind of where he was last year at 18 points a game. So maybe we'll kind of see that, but I don't think him being the number 2 scorer for this team is ultimately the best look for this team in terms of how far they want to go. I think that Myles even talked about it when I asked him, like on Friday against the Cavs. I'm like, getting going. Like, does that really help you with your confidence? He's like, look, my first thing is to set the tone defensively. If I get offense, I get offense. So he's not really necessarily looking to be that number 2 guy offensively. It just kind of happens when things are going the right way for him and he's got a good matchup or whatever. But this is where you'd like to see maybe a Ben Mathurin separate himself and really become that guy. And I will say that maybe you're not as worried as I am, but I do think that there are a lot of concerns with him right now.
There is.
7 games in, right? 4-3. You don't feel like it's the right time to push the panic button, but at the same time, you're just monitoring it. And tonight, pretty efficient night from him. Obviously it was a weird game because the Pacers were dominating the whole entire time. I want to see what happens when they play the Jazz. How does he handle maybe a team that is a little bit more competitive as we continue moving on and he continues to have different roles with this team instead of just being that scorer. But that's why I said I love that he got the ball, went to the basket and scored because that's what he does best. And I'm fine with the passing. I'm fine with that. But not to where it's going to be it's going to be detrimental to him scoring the basketball. And defensively, that's just a totally different ball game we're going to have to talk about at some point, because that's just bad. And a lot of it's just focus, attention to detail, not getting lost in the shuffle. He had some plays tonight that I noticed, without looking at the film, where he just kind of ball watches or reacts a little bit slow. And it's not me hating on the guy, but it's just me wanting him to separate himself from being, the fifth option in the starting lineup or the fourth option in the starting lineup to, hey, let me be number 2. Tyrese, you can get your 25. I'm going to put in 17, 18 a night and really help carry this load.
That's the thing. That's why in that span where he did score 8 of his 10 points, I felt great to be like, just keep feeding him the ball, get him that confidence up. Like, part of me kind of wanted to see him play in the fourth quarter. I know it's not the smart thing to do, but just to be able to get more shots up, so he does feel like, all right, cool. I dropped like 15 or so. I can do it when they allow me to. But yeah, obviously it's different than last year when you're not that focal point of the second offense. You do have a tougher challenge defensively in that starting lineup. It is tough, and my thing is like it is something to be worried about. I just don't want this to be the overpowering storyline that takes away from winning. Like right now, the Pacers they're 5-3. I mean, what do we have to complain about? Or 4-3.
4-3.
Yeah. What do we have to complain about? I'm already counting that Jazz win. I'm getting here greedy. I want to beat them. I want to go to 5.
We should be 6-1.
I know, and that's the problem is like, when are we ever going to be satisfied? Because we win games, but it's the ones that lost that still hurt a bit.
Yeah.
So I do think with Mathurin, look, we're 7 games into the season out of 82. It's not a lot. There's still a lot to play. I saw someone tweeted, and maybe the both of us earlier, like, when is there panic?
Yeah.
The arbitrary number just feels like 25 games into a season. That feels like a good
25.
chunk. At 20, you can make an argument for 20 because it's basically 25% of the season. So it's like, all right, that is a legitimate number to say, hey, we're a quarter of the season in. So we got some time to go before then. But one player we didn't get to touch on that I wanted to highlight, because he's been quiet. Well, we'll get to him. But Andrew Nembhard, I feel like he had 9 points, 8 assists, just 16 minutes. But like, Nembhard's that guy where I think he's been kind of quiet. But in a game like tonight, like, if you only play 16 minutes, could you really play that much better than 9 points, 8 assists? I felt that it was a good performance. He goes 3 of 5 from 3-point land. He's someone that, like, I think we all kind of expected to be breaking out more, but he's playing his role well. It's just not as big of a role as it was last year.
It's just different. And I think that when they brought on Bruce Brown, it did kind of impact how he was going to be utilized. And you can't blame the Pacers for doing it, because Bruce Brown has been a really nice piece for this team, and he fits in pretty well stylistically with what they want to do. And I think right now Bruce Brown is probably a better player than Andrew Nembhard. As much as I believe in Andrew Nembhard's upside, and I think Andrew Nembhard actually has a higher ceiling than Bruce Brown.
Yeah, long term, no doubt.
Yeah, but right now in year 2, I just don't think Nembhard's there yet. But yeah, this is kind of the problem with this Pacers team, because they're trying to find that dynamic of developing and winning games that we talked about. Players growing and having sophomore slumps and having bigger roles, and teams having more of a scouting report on them. It's tough. I definitely mentioned to my friend David tonight, I'm like, look, I really miss how much fun it was to see Ben and Andrew kind of have those special moments. Like, they show the highlight of when Andrew Nembhard hit the game winner against the Lakers, and it's like, man, it feels like that was so long ago.
I know.
Or the game against the Warriors that he went off on, and you're like, oh, the rook is here. But the problem I think that's going to be here for a while is just Andrew Nembhard's natural position is the point guard, and the Pacers have that position locked up long-term with their franchise guy. So, Andrew Nembhard's always going to be Tyrese's backup, or a guy that can close games with the starting, with a group from the closing 5, and not starting 5, but he could be a part of the closing 5 units that are in close games because of his defensive versatility, his playmaking, and I think he's an underrated shot maker too. So overall, I'm a big Nembhard fan. I love his game, and I think that maybe if you were to swap him and Mathurin in the starting lineup, you would see an increase for that first unit's defense, playmaking, and overall. I mean, Caitlin Cooper put out a great video talking about when Nembhard and Nesmith were both in the game, and with Bruce Brown, I think, out there too, just how different they rotate, how much more attentive to detail they are defensively. So he's just a really skilled basketball player. Right now, he's just kind of in this weird spot, I think, as being more of a backup point guard instead of a guy that's going to get more run with Tyrese. And we already have too many guards that need opportunities to kind of score and be that. So he's pigeonholed right now a little bit into a different spot.
Yes. It's tough, though, because it's like the list of point guards that could be better than Tyrese Haliburton is pretty much microscopic. I just feel that Haliburton right now is playing such amazing basketball that it's like that's a tough spot to be in right there. Like it feels like almost like a legitimate 0% chance that it's like Nembhard would ever be the starting point guard for the Indiana Pacers. It would take something awful for that to happen, and I'm gonna knock on wood for that. So I just think in this scenario with Nembhard, it's like we got to figure this out to the best of our ability. It's a great problem to have. He's the cheapest player on the Pacers payroll. Very talented player, still really young. We will figure this out. We will. But for now, I mean, when you're winning, it's like, look, if he's in a win able to contribute 9 points, 8 assists, you just got to be happy with it. But one of the names that you brought up earlier, Ben Shepard, we saw him. It's been evident. His spot in the rotation is ahead of Jarris Walker. He came in earlier, played 12 minutes. Shepard, 7 points. Yeah, I think that we saw some moments. I think he had a couple shots that were even really close to going in that ended up coming out. So he could have dropped 10, basically in that fourth quarter alone. Just a player that I am excited about moving forward, and also happy to have Jarris Walker back from the upper respiratory issue that he was dealing with.
Yeah, and you kind of have to wonder maybe if that played a factor into him getting in a little bit later than starting out the fourth quarter, or maybe they wanted to kind of ease him in a little bit and have other guys get some opportunities there as well. But yeah, I think this was, at the end of the day, just a really good opportunity to see some guys get some minutes that they normally wouldn't see. You got to expand the rotation to 14 players tonight, like you mentioned, and everybody got a chance to score that played in the game. So that is what you like to see, people sharing the basketball, people growing in different areas, people learning the game. And Ben Shepard had some nice moments. So Rooster, I'm going to give him another shout out. He did tell me he has a tweet saved about Ben Shepard. That's a very spicy and hot take. That he is ready to release within the next couple of years when that moment is correct. So
wow, really holding on to this one for the long run.
I am anxiously awaiting for this day to happen, because if Rooster's able to tweet this out, we're going to be in good shape, Pacer fans. I'll just put it that way. In regards to Ben Shepard, if Rooster could put this tweet out that he told me about, we're going to be in good hands. But I think this is just a great way to kind of close things out, as once again just realizing and not remembering, but just reflecting on Rick Carlisle getting his 900th win. This is fantastic for Rick, for the franchise, and they put out a 6-minute video on social media.
It was awesome. It was
lots of great quotes in there. Current roster, former players, coaching staff. Steve Simon, he's going to take over as the governor of the Pacers when Herb Simon does step down. So just absolutely loved how much they talked about Rick's off the court involvement with these players, the love that he has for these guys. It's just, you felt such a connection when you heard these interviews, and you could feel the love from the players and the coaches and all the former players of how much Rick has meant to them, not just as a coach, but as a mentor and someone that kind of looked out after him throughout their careers.
No doubt the love was felt. I mean, current players, you could just see, they really enjoy playing from some of the past players. I mean, there's something about Ron Artest that's like, he's sitting in the car, he's got like his little scarf on, and he's just like talking about all these. Yeah, he's just talking about all these great moments that, he might have been annoyed at Rick back in the day, but make no mistake about it, he had his best season under Rick Carlisle, and he could look back on that very fondly now. You got some Jeff Foster, Austin Crozier, just some of the real throwbacks that it was great to hear from. So I thought that video was worth every second of it. The 6+ minutes that it was. It just showed that, man, hey, Rick Carlisle, a true legend, second most wins of any active head coach, behind only the guy that was on the opposite sideline tonight, in Coach Pop. So two legends. Rick, I mean, man, the Pacers' whole franchise turned around when they brought Rick Carlisle back. I have no idea where we would be if that move did not happen. Because if it didn't, Tyrese Haliburton likely ain't here, and so many other players. So I don't even want to think about what that nightmare may have been.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did have a big say in rebuilding this roster. And because of his success, 900 wins in his third year with the Pacers now, having so much history with this franchise and having so much success throughout the league and the long time that he's been here, whether it's been as a player or an assistant coach or a head coach, he's earned that respect from the front office to have a say with what this organization should do. And he has the organization's best interests at heart. So that's why I get kind of annoyed when I see people kind of dogging him on social media. Oh, he's a bad coach. Oh, he's
Crazy.
holding this guy back. He's doing that. No, I think if you listen to Jenny Busek talk about the level of commitment he has to evolving his game and learn and change from how the game has shifted. You got to think about it. When he was first coaching, like as an assistant with the Portland Trailblazers, then when he comes to the Pacers with Larry Bird, and then he ends up becoming a head coach. Think about how drastically the league has changed over the last
Massively.
25, 30 plus years. It's been multiple changes of style of play, and Rick has been able to find success in every era. Look, he might only have one championship, but that's a lot more than a lot of coaches can say. So
yes, it is.
It's a special day to recognize Rick Carlisle for all that he is. He's a great coach. Pacers are beyond lucky to have him. Indiana fans should be more appreciative and grateful for who he is as a coach and what he means for this franchise. He's not one that really loves the spotlight on him. He's a pretty humble guy, doesn't really enjoy it. But at the same time, I think he is deserving of every single bit of praise and love that he's gotten tonight and that he'll continue to get throughout his tenure here, because I have no doubt about it. If he continues coaching at the level he's coaching at, we're going to see 1,000 in the next couple of seasons.
Oh, yeah. I definitely look forward to seeing 1,000. You could just see, outside even the video, like so many Pacer players just ran to Twitter just to be able to give him that shout out. And it's just like, I don't know. On a night like tonight, like I was just like, man, we are sitting good, because you look at this roster right now, you just know that we're far from done. But there's also times that I'm like, I don't want to rush it when they are playing well, because it's so easy to always look for that next move. But just like, I think sometimes we got to sit back and enjoy what we're building right now and know that moves will be coming, but don't just make a move just to make a move. It's like, give this team some time. 38 assists tonight. They lead the NBA in assists per game. Through the first 3 games, they had the most assists of any team in NBA history. Right now, the Pacers, the way that they are sharing the rock is everything that you could have asked for from what we watched a few years ago, where we were like, man, this team has no real point guard. It's like your leading assist guy could have 5 assists. It's like Tyrese does that in a quarter. So let's just keep on keeping on. Bring on the Utah Jazz. I really want to be able to handle business, finish out this homestand strong. I know it's I think 5 straight games at home, I believe.
Yeah, we're on game number 4 against the Jazz.
Yep. So this is the time right now where it's like, look, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves by any means, but it's just like, you're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks,
Thursday.
It's like, look, that's going to be a really, really tough game. NBA TV, some people consider it national television, some people don't. Whatever it is, it's available to more people. Would I love to be able to make a splash on NBA TV? Absolutely. Am I getting ahead of myself and overlooking the Jazz? Absolutely. I don't want to do it, so let's just take this one game at a time. But man, it's November 6th, nighttime right now. I'm fired up about these Indiana Pacers.
I'll tell you this: the Bucks don't have a defensive stopper to really contain Tyrese.
They're struggling defensively.
So we'll see. That game might be more winnable than we think. But wanted to close things out here just reading a quote from Tyrese Haliburton on his relationship with Rick Carlisle. He said, "Rick's just a really smart guy. He really understands the game of basketball. He's seen a lot, and he's been able to help me in so many different ways. We have a very honest relationship where we can bounce ideas off each other. I really am thankful for our relationship and really look forward to continuing to grow together." You love hearing that from your franchise point guard fully endorsing their head coach, because if those two are in great unison and synced, then you're going to have the rest of that trickle-down effect. Even Daniel Tice respects Rick Carlisle as his coach, despite not seeing the floor. So TJ McConnell said they still have a lot of work left to do, and I loved hearing that as well. So some guys that on the outside of the rotation, maybe, still pretty respectful of Coach Carlisle.
No, it was. And even McConnell said in the video, he's like, we still have a lot of work to do together. Like, we're not, whatever you mentioned before, like, there was an emphasis on, like, together, like that. Yeah. And it's just like that. He could have just kept it real short, whatever it is, for a guy that is not playing as much as he wants to play. He's still 110% invested in what we're doing, not just what he's looking to do. Awesome stuff. The last thing I got to say, because we talked about how the Pacers had an opportunity to break the franchise scoring record. TJ McConnell dribbles it out. I know the crowd wanted it.
They were booing.
What were your thoughts? I know, exactly. Look, they were booing, as if we didn't just win by 41, but at the same point, I get it. You rarely have an opportunity to set history like this. McConnell did the classy basketball move where you're like, look, we're up so much, we don't need to shoot it. But do you think he had any idea that the scoring record was in reach? I don't know if they communicate that type of thing at that point in the game.
I'm not 100% sure. I doubt it. I would say
I don't think he knew. I don't.
But I think that regardless of what the score was, he was not going to set up an offensive play to let somebody score just because you have too much respect for the game. Rick Carlisle doesn't seem like someone that would want to be disrespectful to the game, or his longtime coaching friend,
Greg
Popovich.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that does also play a factor into it. But I don't think if it would have been the newest coach in the NBA going up against the Pacers, I don't think Rick would have tried to tell his team to score again on that next possession either. So we rarely see it unless you're Lance Stevenson making your comeback to the field house.
Lance would have done it.
That's what we all wanted. We needed a Lance out there for this moment. But I know you said that was the last thing. I just want to continue. Greg Popovich did have a quote on Rick Carlisle getting his 900th win. He said, "He's one of the most respected and hardworking guys. I hope he keeps winning for a long period to come." So that can kind of put a bow on that one, Facci. We can quit talking about Rick Carlisle. We really are just glad that he is a Pacers head coach and glad that he's had so much success and is able to continue doing that here for the Pacers. But with that being said, go ahead and tell the people where they can find us at on the good old social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod, STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod STP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok at Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Absolutely. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast, where you can find all of our post-game videos. And if you like this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review over on Apple or Spotify, because that does help more Pacer fans find this show. And you guys know that we are putting in the work. 5+ episodes a week, more to come with that. We are just constantly giving you the content that you are craving if you are a diehard Pacer fan. Now, if you're a casual Pacer fan, you can check in with us because you know we're going to have content for you of some sort. But with that being said, if you're excited that the Indiana Pacers are back on their winning ways, Facci, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers!